Hungary's foreign minister is warning the U.S. not to relax restrictions on Ukraine's use of Western missiles for deeper strikes into Russia. I sat down with Minister Peter Szijjarto to talk about ending Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I'm Szijjarto, and you're watching TRT World's One-on-One. Hungary's Foreign Minister, Peter Szijjarto, thank you for joining us here on TRT World.
Thank you so much for the kind invitation again.
You know, I was looking at your speech when you gave it, and you proposed finding a faster way to end the war in Ukraine. Tell us about your ideas.
Look, we have now been living in the shadow of the war for almost 1,000 days. And 1,000 days is a period which is long enough to draw some conclusions, draw some consequences. And one of the consequences is that whatever international measures have been made based on the assumption that this war could have a solution on the battlefield have all failed, all of them, entirely. Why? Because there is no solution on the battlefield.
Now, I think that's where you also made the point that you're worried about arms coming from other countries.
Absolutely, because what happened is the following. There have been major weapon deliveries, and the outcome is not that we could have come closer to peace. The outcome is not that the reality would have changed on the battlefield. No, the outcome is that there are more and more people dying, more and more destruction taking place, more and more families being torn apart, people are suffering. So there's no solution on the battlefield, but if there's no solution on the battlefield, then where we have to look for the solution, and the solution is around the negotiating table. So an immediate ceasefire, and then peace talks should be started. This is our position.
What is your message to President Biden when he's thinking about giving permission for Mr. Zelensky to use certain weapons?
Look, in case Ukraine gets the authorization to use weapons received from the West against strategic depth of Russia, it will be an extremely serious risk of escalation. Because if such a thing happens, I think it's not a rocket science to understand that Russia will backfire. Russia will react.
Is this a war of attrition? I mean, is this something that President Putin didn't think would ever happen, that he would have such a struggle in his invasion?
Look, the Ukrainians are fighting in a heroic way. That's not a question. Just look at the difference of the size of the two countries. So the Ukrainians are fighting in a heroic way. The question is, but the question now is not what we do think about the war. The question is how peace will be reached. And there might be different ways towards peace, but seeing the huge number of casualties, seeing the level of destruction, seeing the level of suffering, I think we have to choose the fastest one among those ways which are leading hopefully to peace.
But the problem, of course, is it seems to me that you think the European community has failed.
Oh, the European community, and I would say the transatlantic community, has totally failed when it comes to answers to this crisis. Why? Because the sanctions absolutely do not work out. The sanctions are more harmful to the economies of some European countries than to the Russians themselves. The sanctions have caused tremendous inflation rates in the European Union. Huge increase of energy prices. They have led to food security challenges around the world. So the sanctions have failed. Weapon deliveries have failed.
But have the sanctions impacted your country as well?
Oh, absolutely. The sanctions have impacted us in many ways. First, right after sanctions have been implemented, the energy prices started to grow very badly. And since we are a net importer of energy, in case the energy prices increase, it has an immediate impact on the product prices. So in our case, inflation rate is usually somewhere between 1 and 1.5%. And now in this case we have 27% inflation, and we had to sacrifice our entire last year to the fight against inflation. So up to 2022 we had a very clear growth rate. Then after the war has broken out, that the sanctions have been introduced, our economy has stopped, and for the first time in the last 14 years the net wages have decreased as well because of inflation.
Now, I understand you are one of the architects of the previous deals and current deals with Gazprom, correct?
Yeah. Well, Gazprom is supplying us with gas for many years now. We are now having a long-term contract in place. This long-term contract ensures the safety of gas supply to Hungary. Gazprom is an absolutely reliable supplier. We have no reason to change the supplier, although we have struggled with some challenges regarding the oil deliveries recently after following Ukraine's unilateral decision of putting in a ban on the Lukoil deliveries, who have a 30-35% share of our imports. We have sorted that out. We were able to amend the contract, so now the oil deliveries are safe again, but there Ukraine has caused some trouble for us for a period of time.
What about the issue of migrants? This has been a huge problem in your region for several years now. Of course, now the United States has a very similar problem. Tell us how you handle that now and what you are concerned about in the future.
Look, illegal migration has been a huge security risk for the European continent for the last 9-10 years. And what makes this problem even more serious is the absolutely failed approach by Brussels. Why? Because Brussels never wanted to stop migration, they always wanted to manage migration. And this approach has encouraged many people to hit the road towards Europe. And you know, it's not only that they hit the road, but they take life risk, they pay thousands of euros to smugglers and traffickers. So therefore, a business, an industry has been built around smuggling people to Europe. We have built a fence at our border. We have stopped the illegal migrants, hundreds and hundreds of thousands throughout the recent years, and we stick to our own right, that a sovereign right, that we make our own decision whom we allow to enter the territory of Hungary and with whom we are ready to live together.
Based on their experience, how do you view what's happened here in the United States with the migrant crisis?
Look, when it comes to migration, President Trump and our government do represent a very similar approach. Protecting the border is a matter of sovereignty. In case you lose your ability to control your border, in case you lose your ability to make a decision on your own whom you would allow to enter the territory of country, you lose a big portion of your sovereignty. I totally agree with President Trump on that, and we hope that he will be successful, and then the whole global policy on migration, I think, will change a bit.
Am I quoting you correctly when we understand that you said it's better for us while Trump is in the White House?
Yeah, absolutely, that's the case. But look, we are not Americans, so it's not up to us to decide who's going to live in who's going to be in the White House for the upcoming 4 years. But in the meantime, I can tell you that politics is a job based on experience, and we have a very clear experience about the term of President Trump, how the US-Hungary relations have looked like, how he controlled global security, and we have a clear experience about those times when it was the Democrats to do so. And see, Hungary-US relations have been on their peak during President Trump's term. Before him and after him, these relationships were much worse.
Are you saying that the relationship with the U.S. now is a bit rocky? It's not.
No, it's absolutely rocky. I mean, politically speaking, yeah. I mean, look, they have terminated the bilateral tax treaty with us. They have eliminated the visa-free regime, and the Americans are financing our opposition and opposition media in Hungary. So I mean, it's more than enough to describe our relationship. But during President Trump, that was totally different. And even if you look at the global security situation, under President Trump, everything was under control. He could make deals, he could make agreements, so the whole world was a safer place compared to how it looks now. So therefore, from the perspective of global security, from the perspective of the US-Hungary relations, obviously, based on our experience, it would be better if President Trump returns. But once again, I want to underline that we respect the decision of the American people, because it must be their decision, and whoever they elect, we try to build the best possible relationship.
Now, I understand that Hungary is the European Council's current rotating president. Tell us about what that role brings.
Well, there are big debates around it. because we thought that it would really make sense if we Hungarians utilize our own position and own capacity that we can talk to all parties at war, and we started to do that. Prime Minister visited Kiev, Moscow, Beijing, Mar-a-Lago, but then we were under such a heavy attack by the European colleagues of ours that we must not do that, we should not do that, you know. So it's really frustrating that that the pro-war politicians of Europe are putting such an attack on us. But this does not discourage us from continuing our peace mission, because once again, if you live for almost 1,000 days in a neighborhood of a war, you really want to stop it.
Can you unpack the obstacles in signing a peace treaty between Armenia and Azerbaijan?
Well, you know, we are absolutely interested in this peace agreement to be made. We have even offered Budapest as a location to sign, as I hope that this agreement will be signed as soon as possible. I understand that there are still some issues which have to be sorted out between the Azeris and the Armenians. Well, here we can just offer our help. In case they need any kind of mediation, in case they need any kind of goodwill service, we are absolutely at their disposal.
In closing, I wanted to ask you about the strategic alliance that Hungary has with Turkey.
Look, first of all, it is being based on a personal friendship between our Prime Minister and your President. On the other hand, it is being based on economic interests falling in line. It is based on the fact that Turkey is an absolutely key partner of ours when it comes to energy security. And it is being based on a mutual respect between the two countries and the two nations. We never wanted to tell you, Turkish, what to do, what not to do, why not to do. Turkish government has never interfered into domestic issues in Hungary. We never had any kind of open issues among ourselves. So whatever we have is always just good cooperation. And that's why we would like to further enhance this and improve this cooperation between the two countries.
Well, you had a meeting, I understand, with the Foreign Minister from Turkey.
I did have a really great meeting with Minister Fidan, with Hakan. We consider each other as brothers. So whenever we meet, it always gives pleasure, no question. And we always are able to make one step forward in our strategic relationship.
Hungary's Foreign Minister Peter Szijjarto, thank you for joining us here on TRT World. Thank you.
Thank you.